favorite was the podcast. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Have a roll call, please.
Here.
Fair.
Here.
Harness. Here. Lee.
Here.
Scarborough.
Here.
Kenworthy. And Tobias.
Great. We have this kind of like flip-flop order here, but in a good way. So our first item for discussion items will be the draft town council agenda. So we'll flip over to page 3 and then I guess go through the agenda items and then we'll go back to the different discussion items after we go through the agenda. So we'll go to the first one. So we have the minutes. Typically, if we see anything, we'll just go ahead and report them over to Jim between now and the town council meeting. Anything glaring? Then we go to our agenda items. The request for council to waive rentals fees. I think there was some discussion, in the past about the amount of rentals asking to be waived, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody can help me with this. That, I think there was one that...
Number of days requested.
3. I think we decided on 3 as the total number we give any organization in any calendar year. I think
3 or 4, but yeah, it's something
Yeah.
in
I thought
that
it
area.
was quarterly.
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember.
It was quarterly the last group we did.
Okay.
We gave them 4.
So we have actually have 2 different requests here. Any comments or objections or concerns?
I think if we stick to the standard policy of 1 per quarter.
One variation on that, the American Legion Post is asking for 4 meetings and 2 blood drives. I'm just wondering if, because it's a blood drive that does service other than to themselves, that might be an exception to the 4.
I don't have a problem with that.
Neither do I.
Staff did receive an email from the last blood drive. They are saying that this is one of their most successful sites.
Well, that's good.
Well, there you go.
They're really, really pleased.
So I guess without objection, we would look at honoring that type of request. And just to clarify, so we do make them do a deposit or don't make them do a deposit? We do. Okay. We just waive the fee.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of times we just hold the check.
Not like actually
I
cash
think,
it.
we can check with Sherry, but
Okay.
it hasn't seen more permanent ones. Like the church.
All right. Any other discussion on that? We'll move on. Appropriation. Brian Henshaw.
Yeah. Just real briefly, there's 4 signs that we need to have relocated. These were part of the right-of-way acquisition and was agreed upon this morning, just a matter of actually getting it done. One of my earlier quotes had the max cost being somewhere around $2,600, $2,800. I think I can actually be able to get it done for a lot more reasonable than that. And this covers all 4 signs, and then basically the only other thing we need to see move quickly because the project's going to be started. So I just wanted to, because the original quote came in a little bit lower than the threshold, I wanted to show you all.
Okay. And our Freedom of Information Act. So we had spoke before, I remember early, about getting Maria up here. So this is kind of just putting this back onto some kind of schedule. I think, obviously, we might want to, I'm not sure.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is I would actually turn it over to Martin. Martin was prepared just to kind of give us some reminders, some general reminders. But I'm working on scheduling a FOIA presentation for the council in the near future, as soon as Maria and I can get together and get our schedules coordinated. And so that's one of the things that we've been working on that actually since I started, and trying to lock that down. She keeps a very busy, demanding schedule.
We're going to open it up to all the boards, right? I mean, it was
Yeah,
council
I
and-
think if you're going to ask her to come in, I mean, you might as well open it up. I think it's okay for us to cater it to some of our specific. We have specific questions, but on the flip side, it's good information for all elected boards in the area. I mean, FOIA is one of those things that's a constant moving target, so it's one of those issues where it's always good to have a refresher every now and then.
Yeah. Martin, did you want to kind of give us like the basics, cliff notes of?
Yeah, let me just chime in a little bit here.
Sure.
And first of all, to reiterate what Brian said about the FOIA Council's classes. They are very informative and a good use of your time. I find that I go through those every few years myself and just to see what they're talking about, because the statute does change. In fact, this year, on July 1st, it changed very dramatically with respect to criminal records, and what we have to disclose in criminal records has changed quite a bit, so you have to be up on constant changes with that. What you all normally get impacted by is the open meetings rules and the preservation of documents. A lot of folks are kind of surprised to learn that if you have a text message, for example, that relates to to public business, then that's going to be a public record, and we have to figure out some way to produce that if it is requested under a Freedom of Information Act request. So those kinds of things turn out to be somewhat time-consuming. One rule of thumb is a recommendation that I make is that if you're doing public business on a private email account, that you copy that email to a public email account, either ones that's set up for you by the town or to a town officer, so that we have a record here. And when we have a request for those records, the town can search its own records rather than coming to you and say, would you please go check your PC or laptop or phone or for that information. So that's one thing that I would stress. And then with regard to the open meetings rules, the FOIA Advisory Council is a little cutesy. They refer to it as the Noah's Ark rule, the 2x2 rule, that if you meet one-on-one, two people, then that is not a public meeting as long as you don't constitute a quorum of a committee. So if you have a committee of 3 people and 2 of those people are meeting or talking on the phone, then that is a meeting and has to be advertised. But if you're just 2 council members, you're not a committee on the same committee of 3, then you can talk to each other and you can talk about anything you want to, and that's perfectly legal. You can ask your fellow council members how they're going to vote. You can talk about upcoming council business and so on. The problem, of course, that people run into is when you're having a social conversation with 3 or more, which is also fine, but then somebody brings up public business, and that's the no-no. That's the thing that gets people unfortunate situations that develop from that. And then something else that I'll just throw in there that has come up recently up in Fairfax was that people were texting and emailing during a meeting. And the allegation that was made against the school board there was that they were, in fact, engaging in a meeting within the meeting because they had this constant email traffic back and forth. And so that's something to avoid. And in general, I would recommend that you avoid reply all on emails, because then that if everybody's doing reply all and you've got 3, 4, 5 of those right in a row, it starts to look a little bit like a meeting. And we don't know. The courts have not told us how close in time those emails have to be in order to become a meeting. So those are some things to look out for. And the FOIA Advisory Council training session will cover that and a good bit more in a good bit of detail and give you some nice materials to take home and refer to as well.
You know, a couple of thoughts as you're talking there. The texting and the cell phones and stuff like that, wouldn't it be just a good policy that we have them off when we're at the dice and we're in session? I mean, I think some localities actually do that, you know.
I don't know. There's certainly some value to that. I mean, I wouldn't presume to say that whether that's the judgment call that you want to make or not. But that's certainly one possible response to that is just to say we won't do that.
Okay. And the other thing is, when we lost our server went down, where are we with that? Was any of that emails or any of that data? Obviously, things that were CC'd to our clerk were preserved by her local machine, but
Right. Well, it's sort of like the fire that you had. If you don't have the records, you don't have the records.
right.
Yeah, all of my emails were restored, so I didn't lose any.
Okay, as long as you were CC'd on it, but any of the other internal things, it's possible that. So whatever happened to that? Did we still have the server? Does their computer IT company have that server? That
Yes, we rebuilt our data. We noticed all of our folders were there, our initial folders. As you got into some of the folders, some of the internal folders were missing,
Oh, I
or
see.
some of the internal documents were missing. But I have found that most of them have been sent in email at some point in time, so I've been able to find them in my emails.
okay.
I really haven't found where I wanted something documented.
Okay.
I have really bad because I didn't have any of mine forwarded on to any personal outside of the server. So when we had our crash, I had nothing until a couple council members and staff had forwarded on to me emails that I had sent. So,
Yeah, front copy or sharing or Brian, you can always have it, especially now with the cloud. We're not using it.
And so FOIA requests, educate us all with this. FOIA requests right now is at the responsibility of our clerk, correct? Or the keeper of the records?
Yeah, typically, although different localities do it differently. For example, the city of Manassas just moved their FOIA responsibilities from the clerk to somebody in the manager's office, who's their public affairs officer. So that person handles all kinds of communications with the public and press. But yeah, typically it's the clerk's office that gets those records requests in, sends them out to the appropriate agents, appropriate departments that might have the records that are responsive, and then responds back to the citizen with the records.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Tobias?
Would a previous council's appointment of a FOIA administrator still hold merit and hold weight to that appointment if that person is no longer on council?
Oh, goodness.
But however, that person still serves the capacity, in a official capacity within the town?
Well, it would depend on how the appointment was made. Was it appointment supposed to be as long as that person served on council, or was that totally separate? And if it's not clear from the action of the council in making that appointment, I think you would want to make a decision as a body either to ratify that appointment or to make it up differently.
But if there was no delineation, definitive time period of ending of that appointment would still be valid.
Well, it would be an appointment, yeah, with, again, it depends on whether are we appointing somebody as a council member to this, or is it you?
There was a person who was appointed to be FOIA administrator.
Okay.
Just so happened that person served on the council at the time. But that person was appointed as the FOIA administrator and has yet to be unappointed.
Okay. Well, then
So therefore, that person should still be the FOIA administrator.
that's certainly reasonable.
Thank you.
Do we have documentation about this? Do we have the
I have
minutes?
to go back in the minutes, but yes, I could get it for,
Well, no, I realize that, but I mean, do we have the minutes that show what the motion was or what the?
we should. I think it was a long time ago, but I can probably find that tomorrow.
I mean, because that seems like that would be the merit or the weight, how the motion was
Was
made,
it
or what,
councilman? Yeah.
or was it a directive, or what,
Sure.
was it a resolution,
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that.
All right. Moving on.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I've really been having conversations with Martin and Brian on how important I think it is to get Maria up here and for all of us to continue our education. Because FOIA is extraordinarily important, and unfortunately, misunderstandings of it are creating problems. And unfortunately, even with the laws changing, ignorance of the law isn't really an excuse for us not upholding it. And all of the code of ethics that I have reviewed, including the one our past council have used, has a section about how important it is to follow the exact quote. Adhere to the principle that the public's business should be conducted in a public view by observing and following the letter and spirit of the Freedom of Information Act. I think we're kind of losing a grasp because FOIA does change. The laws change so much. However, there are stopgaps in place. Talk to our clerks, talk to our town manager, talk to our attorney, call Mark Flynn, call Maria Everett. When I've had questions that those haven't been able to answer in reference to FOIA, I've called Mark, I've called Maria. They're happy to answer these calls. I just think we need a little more education so everyone on this council and the future councils know what the proper way in handling this is when questions come up.
Sounds like we got a good handle on it, and that we're moving in the right direction. You're right. It's a shame that we didn't get this earlier. I remember that was one of the pushing things we were trying to, and there was a schedule conflict, and then we could get one of the persons and not Maria. I was really pushing for Maria because I think she was
Phenomenal.
phenomenal.
And, yes.
She drives it home, So, but yeah, so good.
I think it would be great if all of the members of council could give Brian a heads up to dates they know they won't be available, so when him and Maria can actually square down something, and the board members, they'll have an idea of a good date that we could schedule a meeting just for this, so it doesn't have to keep getting pushed off to other meetings. That's why I pushed so hard for this to be an agenda item, so we can actually give a directive or a motion, so the meeting can be scheduled and they can have all the information on our availabilities.
Yeah, so maybe you give us the month, and then
Yeah, right
And
now
then-
we're shooting for December.
Okay.
I'm trying to give you all enough leeway and time and give her enough leeway and time to get into her schedule. If not, we probably have to push
that would be a very interesting month. But okay.
Yeah, that's a very
Well,
busy
we'll do it
month.
with bells on.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
bring a wreath.
Good deal. All right, department reports, planners. Sean.
I know Harshad's not here, but I was just curious if somebody knew about the firehouse sale. Is this stating that the purchase has not gone through yet?
Correct.
Okay, so that's still,
They still have the discovery period.
okay. All right.
When is the public hearing for the overlay, the historic overlay, so that was scheduled
December 9th
December 9th?
for the planning commission. Then it has to come to council.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions for Rashawn? Not,
No, I
okay.
just had the firehouse and that's it.
All right, engineers report. Ms. Holly.
On the enhancement project, I'm sure you've seen that there's been some utility markings and silt fronts go up. In addition, I'm already did.
Yeah.
In addition, I had the contractor to provide kind of like an overall schedule of what's going to be happening, and then what I did is I went in and put in red from where to where these locations actually are, because I know if you see storm structure numbers, it doesn't really mean a lot to you. So that you would have a better, so people would have a better idea of where these activities are actually occurring. And this takes us through the end of the year. And I will continue to give you updates, and as we get 2-week schedules and drilling down to more specific schedules, I will keep you guys posted about that as well. And Brian will be videotaping updates to place on our website as well.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And what about,
Yeah. Where's the staging area going to be?
The staging area, we had discussed having it on the old police station property.
Okay.
Originally, we had talked about the food pantry, and then Councilman Tobias pointed out that by the old police station property would be better, and so I cleared it with the contractor to move it onto that property.
Okay. Do we have any interest in that building?
There's some, but it'll still be
process.
some time lag between.
Okay.
We'll have to discuss that.
Mr. Tobias?
Assuming we're moving these signs for these 4 businesses prior to this construction taking place, I'm assuming that should the construction company damage those signs, once we have relocated them, we have covered that with them, and they're going to fix them, or they're going to replace them, or
They
replant
are
them?
responsible for any damages that they make for repairing them. We are moving these signs outside of the construction limits, so that the intent is that they will not be damaged. So if they do damage it, it's just like if they are putting in a pipe, and let's say it damages, like let's say they took down, it falls over on an adjacent property owner and it takes out their fence. They have to fix that at their own cost, and this is the same concept. That's actually one of the reasons why the previous town manager wanted to relocate these sites outside of the construction contract. 1, so that we didn't leave it in their hands, and 2, so that we have a lot more control of where they're put, how long they stay down before they go back up, and to try and kind of keep them out of moving these signs and not getting a good product out of it. But I have not specifically talked to him about that, but I will. But that is a general understanding. If you,
The short answer is yes.
yes.
Thank you. Sorry, it's a work session, but we don't need to be there
I
all night.
know.
I'm sorry.
In notification to people like AC Watts and things like that, do we provide, or can we send them something to give them a
We
heads
just-
up? I mean, it seems like it's a couple handfuls of people.
I got this scheduled yesterday, and so I'll get with Jen tomorrow about what we need to do in terms of any mailings and stuff like that.
Just seems like the right thing to do,
To
since we're
affected
affecting really their front entrances and.
Our overall goal is to keep everybody in the project area as informed as we possibly can throughout the entire process to make this as less encumbrance on them as possible. So
I'm putting on a newspaper ad and
Okay.
everything, so.
we're
Yeah,
going to be
it's like maybe
using
a
our
direct
video
mailing would be like, you get it in the mail.
I mean, yeah, but just for the public, so we
Right.
don't get
Oh, yeah.
just general emails.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Holly? All right. Museum report, Ms. Denise, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. Any questions regarding her report here?
Yes, I have some reporting here. I have 2 police reports.
Like right up to,
I think we need to have more Oktoberfests,
20 minutes.
because she got a big lump of
Yeah.
visitors.
I was like, well, I think they're both the same.
No, there was little errors.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
I did get a chance to go in and look at the quilt exhibit, and it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was. It was gorgeous. Great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
I saw some activity at the building today. Is that some of the
That
contractors?
may have been Genesis at the
Okay,
building
yeah.
today.
Very good.
Do we know how long the construction, the repair will take? Do you have an estimate?
I spoke to Mark with Genesis today, and he told me that they plan to have the roofer there on Friday at the museum to make sure there's no additional issues with water coming in through the louvers. And once that has been solidified and there's no more issues with the water, then they'll start the Hurricane Sandy repair work.
Which we're on the anniversary, I think.
Today,
Yeah.
today's the 1-year anniversary.
Or difference in unit?
Well, Okay. Any other questions or concerns? All right, thank you. Treasurer's report. Wow, we have somebody to welcome.
Well, we tied the beginning balances to the audited statements, and we cleaned up the books a little bit. We voided all these old outstanding checks, so the figures look good, and we've gotten a good start on Assist. I'm actually really excited about this software. I think I was happier than I thought it would be. I didn't realize you had a professional chart of accounts done. According to Gatsby, it's really elegant and nice. Will give us really good reports. And Jennifer knows a lot more about it than she said. She really remembered a lot. So we're getting that in. And I think that you'll get much nicer reports, especially in budgeting. So we were thinking about putting the budget, instead of annual, breaking it down by month to give you a better picture. And also, in the standard financial statements, normally a statement of financial position would be included, which is the town's version of the balance sheet, which would show you the cash balances, the investments, the debt, just the total. And I think that would be good information to include. So we're getting that on. So we're going forward.
Good. That's good to hear. So I am interested. Is some of the cleanup that you mentioned, since we just went through an audit, is that something that's noted in the audit, some of those items, or is that something that the two just don't meet?
Well, some of it, it was sticky with payroll. Payroll checks are hard to void. You have to do amended W-2 or a sheet minute. But we managed to figure out that some of it was a QuickBooks glitch, and then we can just reissue the checks. So that was a part of it, that it was payroll.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns? All right. Police report. Any questions that we will need to pass along? If not, we'll go and move forward. Building officials report. How many homes do we have left to?
Sherwood Forest is complete. Final inspection's already been done.
Great.
So now we're just working on finishing out the site.
Okay. Good. Any concerns there? If not, we'll just move forward. Town manager's report.
I have no additional comments to add to my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. We want to take a few minutes to look through this. That was maybe assumed yes.
I already looked at it, I just don't know if it's the same as the one I looked through.
Okay. Any changes there, Jim?
I don't know.
Okay.
Want to discuss any of the items, or?
Well, we
That's
still
fine.
have our discussion time.
Yeah, it's under the discussion.
Yeah. So
Those are
let's
just
go back.
All right.
We'll go after we get through the agenda and go to the discussion items. So.
Would you like to move on?
Okay. All right. In our closed session, that's an item.
That'd be on the, that'd be for the agenda for Monday.
Right. Okay. All right. Council member time, so we can go now back to our opening page, our discussion items. Item B, which would be the code of conduct and ethics. So, looks like we've got a separate folder here. So, let's kind of go over that. Did we ever officially adopt the code of ethics that we're aware of? No. There was a code of ethics that was obviously that the council, and I think it would have been 2008, came up with, passed it around, people signed, people didn't sign. My memory serves me correct.
Correct. I
So-
think it was a little bit later, it was 2010 or 11, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was circulated.
Right.
It was given to me on my first encounter.
Okay. Was that in,
That was in Brown League, wasn't it?
Was it? Okay.
Oh, no, was it?
okay.
I mean, this was when I was just first elected
Appointed.
and appointed.
So we've never officially adopted one.
Yes.
Okay. But we have that one as a draft. I think it came from another city, if I remember correctly, that we kind of worked with or found.
Yes, and comparing it to some of the others that we have to look through, it was definitely a copy and paste. From some of the other ones, I've noticed there's only one clause that the past councils left out of theirs. But all the others seem very verbatim in structure.
So in looking through this one that says town policy, is that the one that actually we've been passing around over the years then, in the packet? It didn't have any, do we have a copy of ours?
I brought a copy, but
Yeah,
it's
that
not
was
in here.
emailed, yeah. It's the one that was emailed to all of us,
Oh, okay.
right after the meeting.
That's the one you sent me.
Yeah, there's a code of ethics
Let
that's
me
2
print the one that I
pages.
emailed you all.
And
Okay.
1 page standard.
But that's not in our packet then, I'm sorry. Okay.
I already have one.
And I have one.
I agree with you. I went through it all and emailed them that. They're all somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Some are more verbose than others. And I tend to like it a little more streamlined. Get to the point.
Well, I do notice the vagueness of all of them, and none of them list anything about how exactly to hold one another accountable. And, without, it's great to have the code of ethics and code of conducts, but if we don't have some type of guideline in place on how to exactly hold, our members or our commission members or, our ARB members accountable to these, it's almost no point to creating one.
We're kind of left up to the interpretation. So, Martin, what's your thoughts about it when you don't totally define or it's kind of
Right. It's a kind of a balancing act. You get into how much detail do you need to get into, and how many possible scenarios do you try to define? Because there will always be something that you didn't think of and that you didn't define. So you always are going to have some kind of catch-all. That's just generally true for any kind of code of ethics. The Virginia attorneys used to be governed by a code of ethics that had a catch-all provision that said that you can't do anything that would cause the legal profession to become in disrepute. And I think they decided it was too late for that. So they took that out with the recodification of our code of ethics. But there are still some catch-all provisions there. They're very broad provisions, I should say. No, not being deceptive, that sort of thing. So I'm sure I haven't answered your question at all.
that's right. In looking through this, I can remember day one, I came up with the communications policy that I passed out at my first meeting, which kind of mirrors in our packet the communications policy from the town of Herndon. I think I went, Jim, there were some concerns that you felt in communication with the different boards, if I remember correctly, that you wanted to see afterwards, where they would have a meeting, and then you would be out of the loop, we would be out of the loop, and so out of that, I think you even addressed some of the wording and stuff like that.
I think we actually covered most of this in our rules of procedure we adopted. I think it's just taking the time to go back and see what was missed, but the caveat we put in about the clerk and how everything needs to be CC'd to her kind of covers a lot of this. And then some other sections in our rules of procedure cover some of the other bases also.
Well, it looks like in that one that we adopted, looks like it kind of addresses the FOIA information there. The town clerk serves as the custodian of records, communications consultant. That was page number 2. The town clerk attests all official records requested under FOIA to be the official town communications. So maybe that kind of, I think, might trump.
That's all the policies and procedures,
This was the communications policy.
which was never adopted. It was a handout you passed out, but it was never adopted by council, it never resolved, sorry.
I don't think it was ever objected to as well.
It was never resolved and adopted, therefore it doesn't exist, sorry.
Yeah, I think
It was a nice piece of paper you handed out, but it doesn't mean anything.
And as I said, most of this is covered in the rules of procedure we did adopt.
Yeah. I probably would look for Mr. Martin's opinion on that. If I did send out a communications policy and it wasn't objected to, or it wasn't,
Well,
probably have to have a little bit more research on it.
yeah, I'd
Put you
want
on
to,
the spot.
right, I don't recall anything in the town charter or town code about the adoption of policies, so I wouldn't want to look at that.
Okay.
It seems to me that if you're going to have a policy, that it does need to be adopted by council, and that would mean bringing it forward for action, either by general assent or by, recorded vote.
Okay. All right. Where do we want to go? Do we want to look and digest this? I think some people are looking at it for the first time tonight, so and use one of the templates that one of the other localities have, and then massage that. And if so, maybe we come up with a consensus of which template to kind of draft, and then.
Well, I've looked at all these.
Yeah, so have I.
And, well, not all, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a couple in here I didn't see, because I looked at all the emails that Jen sent out. And in general, the original one that she sent out that was something that was not acted on in the past, but was something that was designed for us, or copied for us, or whatever, seems to have all the basic things in there, and it might be useful to do a little tweaking of it, but I think in general that would be a good starting point. Make sure there's nothing else in one of these others that maybe doesn't fit in there, and move forward with something along those lines.
Okay. Anybody else's opinion, Mr. Tobias?
Why don't we appoint 2 people to work with the town manager and with Martin to come up with something that they can present to the town council at the December 2nd meeting for possible adoption?
How does everyone feel about that?
Yeah,
Because you're never going to get 7 people to agree on anything. We all try to adopt
Yeah.
I agree with
one
that.
of 9 different resolutions.
Okay, so who would be willing to serve?
Oh, I so would.
How about the 2 at the end of the table? Since they both read them all.
Any objection there?
No.
Okay.
Here we go again.
Any objection from any of the other council members for that? No. Okay, all right, good. So we can maybe send any comments
Yes, please.
to.
Yes, please, to them.
To the 2, and
Copy, Jen.
Jim and Brian and Martin, I guess would be the thing. Okay. Sounds like a plan? Great. And then maybe also we can have that in form of a resolution too, that going forward, this is,
Should we just send our suggestions to those 3 at first, and then have Martin look it over later, so we're not,
Right, I think
Yeah.
that we're going to provide something to Martin that is a concise thing and not all
Right.
this piecemeal
Okay.
stuff.
okay,
Cool.
all right, have you, good deal, okay.
Now, just so I can make sure Steve and I are following the right direction, we are looking at a policy to put in place and not something people can pick and choose to sign, correct?
Well, yeah, I think that would be the intent,
Yeah.
that everybody's the same.
I just want to make sure,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? If not, all right. Council. Council term limits. Ryan?
Thanks. Basically, we had talked about this throughout the last several months and everything. I would just bring a couple points up that I offered to you all. They're just general comments. I think you'll have to consider, or at least keep in mind. This is currently under the 2-year term limits. What it doesn't allow councils currently to really kind of develop a long-term vision for the town from the standpoint of as continuity with regard to the council. And as far as also long-term goals, I include an example. If you take the 5-year basic term of a comprehensive plan, you're required by state to review it. That's 3 town councils in the course. You've got 1 designing it, adopting it, and then you've got 2 reviewing it. So different things can change between that. That should be a guiding document that holds some longevity and is your you tweak it here and there as time time marches on, but really should be a guiding document. But you can have 2, in essence, you could have 3 different councils changing vision, which makes it very sporadic as far as trying to accomplish things with regard to the town. There's several ways that you all could go about proposing these changes. That's and everything. It would also include, with regard to the charter change, I'd highly recommend, taking the issue also to residents, and you can do that either through a non-binding referendum, or at minimum open it up to public hearings and everything. And then also in conversations with Martin, he could probably advise you a lot better than I could with regard to our options to proceed with charter change. But I would definitely highly recommend open this up to the residents and everything, as far as with regard if they want to see 4-year staggered limits. The idea would basically be whenever you institute it, that next May election, or whenever the next election would be, probably would not be this coming election, but the election after that. There's lots of ways. The simple way I would propose is you could take the top 3 vote getters, and whoever's running for mayor at that time would get 4-year terms. The 3 lowest vote getters would then have a 2-year term and would run again in 2 years, and that term, and then hence you have staggered 4-year terms.
So how would that non-binding referendum work?
I'd have to defer that.
There are 2 methods of amending your charter. Both involve getting the sense of the public and then sending the resulting charter amendment to Richmond, to the General Assembly for their consideration. One is by a non-binding referendum of the town voters. They would vote up or down on a proposed charter amendment after it's been duly advertised. The town of Culpeper, for example, is doing that with regard to the change from May to November elections. The other way to do it is simply to hold a public hearing after advertising the proposed charter amendment, and then you get the sense of the public at that public hearing with respect to whether you want to proceed with voting on the charter amendment or not. And if the council votes to send the charter amendment to the General Assembly, it does so, and you send it to one or more of your elected representatives in Richmond, and they take a look at it, and then the legislative process, the sausage making happens.
How does people feel about that? Ms. Bear?
oh, I just wanted one thing to be stressed. But just because this council sends down a charter amendment doesn't mean that's what could get approved, and the state can change it throughout their process.
Yes.
Please make sure that is stressed very clearly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just happened in Front Royal, as a matter of fact, I think it was. They had asked for November elections in even-numbered years and got odd-numbered years, or the other way around. So, you do not know what you're going to get back. Dumfries had that experience back in the 90s, where they did not get back exactly what gets that down. It also requires a 3/4 vote of both houses because it's special legislation, so it doesn't take much to derail it.
Ouch. Yeah.
Is there any cost to us other than?
Just the advertising and
And the possibility of getting back something no one on the council at the time wanted or none of the residents wanted, so.
I am curious to see what our opinions are, whether or not having it just a public hearing, advertise for that and getting a consensus of just the limited number of people that come, or that it should actually be on a vote of the people that are voting. Any thoughts? Mr. Bias?
A non-binding, a referendum, if we chose to go that route, would we have time, do we have time, I would hope, to put a referendum on the ballot for the next spring election? And if so, would there be a cost to us from the registrar of the voting officials to add that to the polling station's vote machine? And if so, if we can do that, I think, regardless of the cost, I think that's the best option for us to go down as far as getting more people involved rather than just a public hearing, because as we all know, that unless there's something negative where people can throw mud at people, we don't really have a very good attendance for public hearings. So I think the best option would be a referendum regardless of the cost if we had the time, if this council so chooses, and if we have the time to get it on the voting machines prior to May.
there's certainly time to get it on the voting machines by May. Whether the registrar would charge you for that, I don't know. We can inquire.
If we, I don't understand the concept of a non-binding referendum, but if we put it on there, if it is approved, if the majority say yes, do this, I think that's how we should go. I don't know what the whole non-binding referendum thing is all about.
It means we don't have to say.
Well, I understand the concept of the words. I'm not that stupid. Apparently I'm pretty stupid, but I'm not that stupid. I know what non-binding means, but I don't understand the concept of why the hell you would throw out a non-binding referendum.
It's non-binding on the General Assembly.
Okay, but if we throw out a referendum and it's voted and accepted, we need to follow through.
Yes, at that point, it's just an administrative act of the town staff to send it. It doesn't come back to council for further action.
Right. Nor should it.
Yeah, then it's out.
Nor should it at that point.
So back to my original question, what do we feel? Mr. Kenworthy? An opinion either
Your
way?
original question of the public hearing or the referendum? I
Right,
answered that, right? I answered that. Correct.
But you've answered, but I just want to poll everyone else.
Yeah, I'm with, just what Jason told me, same thing.
Here, Lou?
I think a referendum as well, because you're going to get more people to come out to vote than you are to a public hearing. That's absolutely true.
Okay.
Agreed.
Referendum.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, 120 votes compared to 3 people showing up
Right.
is a big difference when you send it to, well, I would assume would be a big difference when you send it to the state.
You would hope.
Okay.
The only other thing I would say, I don't have a whole lot of experience with this. I would also stress the importance of us starting to establish those ties to our state elected officials, so that they understand the importance of. And that'd be if you're going to go, if we're going to send it to the General Assembly. But
Some
that
of us
does.
have pretty strong ties with
I'm sorry?
some of our state officials. Some of us already have very strong ties with some
Well,
of our state officials.
keep building on. We need to continue to build upon.
I'll keep my relationship in my pocket when I need it. Thanks.
Well, what I'm saying is like that way they understand the importance of this issue. A lot of times I've found that it does go a long way with regard to getting something through.
Okay. All right, great.
So, Mayor, what's going forward from here? First thing, obviously, is find out if there's an expense involved in having this added to the agenda, to the ballot in May. Are you going to have Brian draft up some kind of charter amendment? Is that something you want me to work on? What are our directions with regard to that? And that's kind of what kind of direction that I'm looking for to get from council.
Yeah. Mr. Tobias?
I would think that we formally need to take action on our decision or our agreement tonight that a referendum makes sense on Monday night. And at that point, we can direct staff to start dotting the i's and crossing the t's and figure out what's involved, because we've got 6 months or so. You just said we had ample time, so I don't think we need to make a decision tonight on who needs to draw up what referendum or what, but obviously I think that an attorney should draw up, should we get to that avenue, I think that obviously an attorney should draw up the draft modification to the charter to send out to the General Assembly.
And to have it on the ballot, so that way. Okay.
One last point, I mean, if possible, if it's not that difficult, it'd be helpful to at least know the cost for Monday night, if it's an easy enough thing to find out this week.
We will
I guess
try.
Brian would do that.
Yeah, the only thing we cannot do is we wouldn't really be able to take any kind of action on this. You could
No,
just
no.
send it in forth
No.
in motion, and then you would vote on it in December.
Just ask, is there a cost involved? That would be helpful Monday night, just to know.
Right. Okay.
We will find out.
And if we don't know, that's okay too.
All right. What else we have here? We have change in the election date.
Isn't this
Sort of.
done? I mean, didn't we
I
decide?
think
Well, the topic for discussion.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I thought last month we
Yeah, I kind of
decided.
like-
but
I thought kind of
Yeah,
the
put the nail
consensus
on
was
the
to
head,
leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, after our little.
So I think you just.
You know, but if it's easy, you know, just for discussion purposes, we can just go around the table and say May or November, so we're clear on our consensus.
Sure.
May.
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 Nay.
No difference.
Okay. All right. There we go. Done. So we'll take that off. Our employee raises. As you saw the email, I asked Brian to come up with a figure or find out if we are to put some kind of raise this year on this year's budget, what would it be? Retro and moving forward. So I think we've got that information. I think it was in an email that. So now it's like
I
the
noticed
discussion.
Ryan's statement to us today, the written one, that says he's requesting that we defer this until next quarter to know how our budget looks at that time.
So you would be of the opinion to take his recommendation?
Would take a
Would
recommendation.
wait. Okay. Fair.
At our early budget workshops, and employee raises weren't worked in this year. It came up at the 0 hour, and with the amount of money we had to show on hand for streetscape, there was just no way. Now, council did agree in the work sessions and in conversations that after streetscape, the reimbursement started coming in, then we could revisit it. But since we haven't hit that threshold yet, I have to yield to our town manager's opinion.
Defer. Okay.
I'll defer to the town manager's opinion, though I do feel raises are necessary.
Okay.
Me as well.
Yeah.
You know, kind of echoing a lot of what Rebecca said, the time for discussion of raises historically has always been during the budget sessions, during the work sessions, so that you incorporate those funds into the complete fiscal year picture. We do a lot of advertising, we hold a lot of meetings, we have a lot of work sessions for the budget to get public input, to get staff input, to get council input, et cetera, et cetera. The middle of the year is not the time to readdress and make a modification to the budget that should have been addressed prior to the budget being adopted, beginning of the fiscal year. So therefore, while I defer in part to Brian that you wait, my actual deferment is wait until next year when we do the budget. And I don't think that this year is an appropriate time to do any kind of raises for any salary.
Okay.
If I may, I disagree with that, because the whole conversation last year during the budget cycle was that we would revisit it during the middle of the year once we knew this.
That was your conversation, I didn't do that.
Okay.
You can disagree all you want, I don't care.
We did
I didn't
disagree.
disagree.
Yeah. We did
You're allowed to
disagree.
disagree.
And
It was squeezed out of the budget. It was said that we would
Oh,
revisit
no,
it.
let's reword that, please, because it was
Squeezed out?
never
It-
squeezed out. It
It
was
was
never
put in and it was
worked in.
taken out. We had a raise, we took it out.
We took a lot of things out when we
Yeah,
were
we took
working
a
on
lot of things.
streetscape reimbursement.
Hold on, I'm
Right.
sorry, Jennifer,
Yeah.
did we ever put raises in to begin with?
No.
Thank you.
No, we did not. What we gave you in all of the draft budgets were actual at that time. It was never pumped up or cut back.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I stand corrected. I'm sorry, Mr. Tobias?
I was reiterating what Rebecca was saying, that they were never put in. We took a lot of things out, but raises were never taken out because we never put them in. The reason why we took a lot of things out is because of the uncertainty of the reimbursement factor for the streetscape. Quite honestly, previous councils back 15 years ago have already obligated this town towards the streetscape, and that should be priority number one for this council to continue further through on. So again, my stance is that raises should wait till the next budget year.
Okay, well, I know that there was discussion, you're right, Mr. Aiken, that we were going to revisit it, but, at one point, we were looking at putting $20,000 into health memberships just this year, but yet we won't give a raise to our employees, so. Ms. Bear?
I
That was
think we were,
discussed during the budget.
Yeah, that
planning
was
session,
actually
by the way.
discussed during
That wasn't
budget.
discussed after the budget session.
I think we were all
Discussed at the
hoping
time.
that the reimbursements coming in from VDOT, that we'd be further ahead, and at the midpoint, that we could really consider it. But, as we've said, it was contingent upon the reimbursements coming back in, because we had to strip a lot of things, and when raises came up, we were all very clear, it was after reimbursements started coming in, where we could go back in, look at raises, and look at putting money back into some of the items we had to trim away. So,
Okay. Well, I guess we'll put that on our agenda item for the quarter, as you recommended then. Any other discussion? I think that was it for on this. Don't have anything else. All right. Well, thank you all.
anything but Thursday's good. Just